Hi, my name is Fabian Ramirez. I am a youth motivational speaker. And one of the things I get to do is I get to go into middle schools, high schools, elementary schools, you name it. I've been into universities, junior colleges, and what I get to do is I share my story. Let me tell you a little bit about me, my story. I grew up in Houston, Texas, in the inner city. I was considered one of those at-risk kids, simply because I almost failed 7th grade, simply because, there was a guy in 7th grade who was actually picking on me, right? He was bullying me. And so I didn't want to go to class. I didn't even want to go to school. Man, I used to tell my Mom, go drop me off at the other side of school. I just didn't want to be around this guy, He really made school, my school learning environment, really a place that was unstable for me. And so, man, I wanted to drop out, man. I did horrible in 7th grade. In fact, to this day, I still don't remember like fractions. I mean, some of the basic stuff that you're supposed to remember as you're going through middle school. But man, and then I started to experiment with marijuana during that time. And so one of the things he would do is he would hit us, then he would make us buy marijuana from him. So long story short, I ended up actually trying it out, and it ended up being one of the worst decisions I've ever made. In fact, as we go around this week, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my story more in detail. But first, I wanted you to get to know me a little bit right before we go into those subjects, because really I want you to be comfortable with the fact that, I've walked in your shoes. I know exactly what you're going through. Some of you who are like in middle school, elementary school, or maybe you just entered into high school, I know what it feels like to want to know, like, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing here at school? What is my purpose, right? Where can I fit in? Man, I understand that. Every student that I talk to has to go through something like that. Because I remember those days when walking into middle school and you just don't know where to sit, especially like the first day. You look for your friends, some people that you went to elementary school with, and you kind of like, where do I sit? It's an awkward time, I've had many of those awkward moments in school. So anyways, all I want to say is I've walked in your shoes, but I want to teach you some of the things that I've been able to learn over the years as I've been able to go through school. Like I said, I almost failed the 7th grade, but after that, can I tell you, it's not where you start, it's where you end up. And you'll hear that a lot in your lifetime, but it's true. Because not only did I almost fail, but I finished high school. Then I kept going and I finished college. And I kept going and I have a master's degree. I went to grad school, and now I can say, man, I have a master's degree. I got a ring to prove it. And but you know what? Not only that, but man, I went from making like 75 cents on eBay to making thousands a year off of Google.com. But now I get to live my dream. I get to go into schools like yours. Maybe you're watching this inside of a school. Man, I get to go into your school and I speak to thousands of kids a week. And I get to share my story about how I was bullied, about how I tried drugs. But now I get to share how, man, I live a drug-free life, man. That's why I wear this red wristband right here. And that's why this week, as you go through Red Ribbon Week, man, you'll see people like create cool things on their doors. Maybe you'll paint like a mural like this one behind me. I don't know what you're gonna do. But remember to live drug-free lives, and remember to wear that Red Ribbon Week with pride. So let's go through this week. I got a cool video series lined up for you. But first, let's start off with the history of Red Ribbon Week. So let me give you a little history of Red Ribbon Week. Why we wear red ribbons at businesses, organizations, schools, and here's why. Back in 1985, there was a DEA agent who, his name was Enrique Kiki Camarena, and one of the things that he was involved in, he was trying to uncover the Mexican drug cartel by going into Mexico and living among them, trying to figure out how are they bringing drugs into the United States. And so as he was living among them, they just found out that he was an agent. And one day he was going to lunch with his wife on February the 7th of 1985. And 5 men pushed him into a van, and they took him. And a month later, they found out that he was dead. He had been tortured to death, actually. They found him in a shallow grave, and the only reason that they would put somebody in a shallow grave is so that they can be found. So he was found, and some of his friends back in California and his local congressman actually started what's called Camarena clubs back in California. And what they would do is every year they would pledge to live drug-free lives and to show their appreciation for their friend Kiki. So they would wear these red ribbons. And so that movement started to gain momentum, and then we have what we have today, which is Red Ribbon Week. Now, let me tell you a little bit of the stats behind why we even celebrate and why we teach kids to live drug-free lives. The stats are staggering. For example, I'm standing here next to a school, and 60% of teens who go to schools like this one say that they can find drugs inside of schools. That's 60%. Now, not all 60% are buying them. They just said, I know where I can find them, and it's inside the schools. So we're trying to figure out how to stop that, how to keep that demand down. And youth that actually drink alcohol, they're 50% more likely to try cocaine. It's crazy, but think about it this way. You never go from like smoking something that's so illegal as much as like cocaine or sniffing it back to like doing like cigarettes, It's always like a slow progression of trying harder and harder drugs. So that's why we're trying to teach students to don't even start those small steps, because you only go to the next thing, and everybody's always trying to try harder and harder drugs. One of the things we've also found is that a lot of kids, especially during the winter months and the summer months, are starting to abuse what we call opioids or pain relievers. And the reason for this is because they can find them inside of their own homes, because like when people go to the dentist and people take like pain relievers and they get prescribed, they always prescribe you more than what you actually need. We just don't know people's pain tolerance is what it is. So you go into medicine cabinets and man, you'll see prescriptions that are like almost full, And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of kids are actually abusing drugs, specifically prescription drugs during the winter months, summer months. They're at home by themselves a lot of times, where their parents are having to leave them at home. So a lot of times they get into the medicine cabinet and start experimenting. So all we're saying is, man, stay away from that stuff. And then a lot of kids say that they want to try like alcohol. They think it's cool. They see the commercials. Let me just tell you a little bit about alcohol, right? Here's a staggering fact. Alcohol kills 6.5 times more youth than all illicit drugs combined. Isn't that crazy? Like you take marijuana, you take cocaine, you take ecstasy, PCP, whatever. All those that actually like taking the lives of kids, alcohol takes 6.5 times more of those kids' lives. That's how serious alcohol is. You see, you don't see that in the commercials, right? They don't show you the cars that are wrapped around the tree after teens have been drinking and then they decide to get into a vehicle. They don't show you that stuff. They just show you the cool stuff, right? People having a good time, a nice cold beer, or they show you the girls running around and they look nice and high, and they think, man, they don't show you the girls that are throwing up all over themselves. The girls that are in the bathrooms, just passed out on the bathroom floor. They don't show you that stuff, but it's true. It happens. In fact, some people have to be taken to the hospital and they have their stomachs pumped because they've had too much alcohol. Isn't that crazy? You consume so much that you get like poison in your stomach. And we'll talk a little bit about that throughout the week. And I'm sure you're going to learn some of that later as you talk amongst your teachers and your schools, bring up different subjects. You'll start to learn more about that. Now, here's a cool fact. Here's what I like. Here's the stats that I like, because, man, I never want to present a problem without giving some kind of a solution, And here's a cool solution. Teens that talk to their parents on a regular basis, man, they're 42% less likely to use drugs. Ain't that crazy? They're 42% less likely. That's why we're like, man, let's have these conversations, But think about this for a second. Now, only a quarter of teens actually talk to their mom and dads about drugs. So we need that to get high. We want it to be 100%. We want for as many students to be able to go home and talk to their mom and dad about the effects of drugs and alcohol. So maybe this week, as you go home every day, man, talk to your mom and your dad about what you learned during the Red Ribbon Week. and open up that conversation, man, because the more you do that, the less likely you are to try drugs, okay? So that's why we're here. We're just having an open conversation. You know, I'm like considered like America's big brother because I love taking that big brother approach. What would I say to my little brother or my little sister as they're going to school? I would say these exact things. And that's why I want to be able to share these things with you, this knowledge that I've been able to have as I go into schools like this across the country, man. I just love being able to get in front of students and be able to share my story, and hopefully, you know, that way some kids won't go down some of those roads that I've been able to go down. So look, I believe that students should learn from other people's mistakes. You know, I think kids should learn from mistakes. It just doesn't have to be their own. So that's why I'm here, to be able to share with you that just this is drug education. The more you learn about drugs, the less likely you are to use them. So anyways, have a good time this week during Red Ribbon Week. And again, I'm there with you. I'll be supporting you. I'll be wearing my red as well. And just know that you have somebody that you can also look up to. So have a good time this week, and we'll see you hopefully maybe one day at your school. So you have a good week.